folks, for this video we're going to be going over the topic of spa, a spiritual practice of ancient Nordic, Icelandic, and other peoples with cognates in Anglo-Saxon England and others that we can reckon as ancient heathenry. Spa is prophesying or divining. As with my definition of experience of Sather, what I understand differentiates spa from other divination practices is that it has direct involvement of Vetir. The spa mater, or prophecy man, though prophecy person is probably closer to the meaning, spa kona, prophecy woman, or spa man, which is prophecy man, calls in the Vetir and then may have them share what they know or send them to find the information they're looking for. The most popular telling of a spa ritual comes from Erik Saga Rauther, or the Saga of Eric the Red, about Thorbjorg Littlevolva. Annette Host gives an excellent retelling in her YouTube video on her, linked here, and it'll be linked in the notes below. While the saga describes the respect and wealth used to welcome her, and a very detailed description of Thorbjorg, the actual details of the ritual are sparse. Here I'm going to read the section of the saga of Eric the Red, or Erik Saga Rautha. So to be clear, I'm going to post the translation link in the notes down here. And it's going to be an 1880 translation into English by J. Sefton, and is one of the more widely available online. And it's pretty easy to read, which is part of why I like it. So, you're going to be looking for chapter 4. At that time, there was a great dearth in Greenland. Those who had been on fishing expeditions had caught little, and some had not returned. There was in the settlement the woman whose name was Thorbjorg. She was a prophetess, a spa queen, and was called Littlevolva. Now, he has this translated as Little Sybil. She had 9 sisters, and they were all spa queens, and she was the only one now living. I don't know why he uses the translation of queen there, but sure. It was a custom of Thorbjorg in the wintertime to make a circuit, and people invited her to their houses, especially those who had any curiosity about the season or desired to know their fate. And inasmuch as Thorkel was chief Frank thereabouts, he considered that it concerned him to know when the scarcity which overhung the settlement should cease. He invited, therefore, the spa queen to his house and prepared for her a hearty welcome, as was the custom whenever a reception was accorded a woman of this kind. A high seat was prepared for her, and a cushion laid thereon, in which were poultry feathers. Now, when she came in the evening, accompanied by the man who had been sent to meet her, she was dressed in such wise that she had a blue mantle over her, with strings for her neck, and it was inlaid with gems quite down to the skirt. On her neck she had glass beads. On her head was a black hood of lambskin lined with ermine. A staff she had in her hand with a knob thereon. It was ornamented with brass and inlaid with gems about the knob. Around her she wore a girdle of soft hair, and therein was a large skin bag, in which she kept the talismans needful to her in her wisdom. She wore hairy calfskin shoes on her feet, with long and strong-looking thongs to them, and great knobs of latten on the ends. On her hands she had gloves of ermine skin, and they were white and hairy within. Now, I have also seen this ermine bit translated as catskin. Now, when she entered, all men thought it their bounden duty to offer her becoming greetings, and these she received according as the men were agreeable to her. Then Thorkel took the wise woman by the hand and led her to the seat prepared for her. He requested her to cast her eyes over his herd, his household, and his homestead. She remained silent altogether. When the tables were removed, Thorkel advanced to Thorbjorg and asked how she liked his homestead. During the evening the tables were set, and now I must tell you what food was made ready for the spa queen. There was prepared for the porridge of kid's milk, and hearts of all kinds of living creatures there were cooked for her. She had a brazen spoon and a knife with a handle of walrus tusk, which was mounted with 2 rings of brass, and the point of it was broken off. When the tables were removed, The Thorkel advanced to Thorbjorg and asked her how she liked his homestead, the appearance of the men, or how soon she would ascertain that which he had asked, and which the men desired to know. She replied that she would not give the answer before the morning, after she had slept there for the night. And when the next day was far spent, the preparations were made for which she required the exercise of her enchantments. She begged them to bring her those women who are acquainted with the lore needed for the exercise of the enchantments, and which is known by the name of weird songs, but it's also translated as Varthloker, which is guardian song or enticement song, per Price, Dr. Neil Price in The Viking Way. Just as a aside, the search was then made through the homestead to see if any women were so learned. Then answered Gudrid, I am not skilled in deep learning, nor am I a wise woman, though Haldis, my foster mother, taught me in Iceland the lore which she called weird songs. Then art thou wise in good season, answered Thorbjorg. But Gudrid replied, That lore and the ceremony are of such a kind that I purpose to be of no assistance therein, because I am a Christian woman. Then answered Thorbjorg, Thou mightest perchance afford thy help to the men in this company, and yet be none the worse woman than thou wast before, but to Thorkel I give charge to provide here the things that are needful. Thorkel thereupon urged Gudrid to consent, and she yielded to his wishes. The women formed a ring round about, and Thorbjorg ascended the scaffold and the seat prepared for her enchantments. Then sang Gudrid the weird song in so beautiful, excellent a manner that no one there, it did seem, had ever heard the song in voice so beautiful as now. The Spa Queen thanked her for the song. Many spirits, said she, have been present under its charm, and were pleased to listen to the song, who before would turn away from us, and grant us no such homage. And now are many things clear to me before that were hidden from both me and others. And I am able to say this, the dearth will last no longer, the season improving as spring advances. The epidemic of fever, which has long oppressed us, will disappear quicker than we would have hoped. And there, Gudrid, I will recompense straight away for aid of thine which stood us in good stead. Because thy destiny is now clear to me and foreseen, thou shalt make a match here in Greenland, a most honorable one, though it will not be long-lived for thee, because thy way lies out to Iceland, and there shall arise from thee a line of descendants both numerous and goodly, and over the branches of thy family shall shine a bright ray. And so fare thee now well, and happily, my daughter. Afterwards the men went to the wise woman, and each inquired what most was curious to know. She was also liberal of her replies, and what she said proved true. After this came from another homestead after her, and she went there. Thorbjorn was invited, because he did not wish to remain at home while such heathen worship was performing. The weather soon improved once spring began, as Thorbjorn had said. Thorbjorn made ready his ship and went on until he came to Brattahlid, the steep slope. Eric received him with the utmost cordiality, saying he had done well to come here. And Thorbjorn and his family were with him during the winter. And in the following spring, Eric gave to Thorbjorn land at Stockness, and handsome farm buildings were then built for him, and he dwelt there afterwards. There are tools we can find in common use between Seidr and Spa. Among them are the clothes specifically referenced in the passage we have just explored. The bag that holds what Enat Host refers to as the Vulva's Taufer, or charms, and the staff. I agree, Taufer are likely among the charms or the objects in the bag. Items such as miniature weapons and tools that have been found in grave goods of those suspected of being a Seid Mother or Spa Mother. Again, Dr. Price's exploration of these graves is fabulous. Definitely check out The Viking Way. Likewise, I would be surprised if a variety of sacred herbs were not carried, as many of the sites also have at least a bag of seeds, cannabis on several occasions, henbane on others, and a variety of other herbs and flowers which really either aren't identified at this point or are scattered. Unfortunately, both the contents of Thorbjorg's bag and the content of her spa rite are not explored in depth. Was the staff spun like a distaff? If so, was it spun in one direction, to bring in or entice, to tie in the Vetir? And was it spun the opposite way, to release them? Was the staff used more like a scepter, or more like our modern notions of what a wanderer staff is. Was it used to direct energy? We have no way of knowing for sure. So, as with so much, this must be up to each Seidh Mother and Spa Mother. In the passage, Thorbjorg Littlevolva describes what she sees to those assembled at Thorkel's farm. As with many divination arts, while this seems to be a way that a diviner can take information in, I hasten to point out it is not the only way. It may be smells, sounds, tastes, physical sensation, or sense of knowing that can bring the information forward. Experiences can vary, especially with an art that heathens are still developing in Spa and Seidr. My recommendation for the resources available to heathens for the modern practice of Spa is going to be most of the same recommendations as the Seidr video. The Viking Way by Dr. Neil Price is an indispensable book on the written and archaeological sources of modern academic knowledge of Seidr and Spa. I cannot recommend cat heaths, elves, witches, and gods highly enough, especially for folks fresh to Seidr, Spa, or those who are looking to refresh their approach. And Seidways by Jan Fries, I remember being a good book. Past these resources, I deeply recommend Jim Two Snake Stovall's Spiritual Accounting book. It is an excellent breakdown of what spiritual accounting is, why it is so important, and how to do it effectively. The only further recommendations I can make here will be similar to those I have otherwise. Develop solid, grounded relationships with your Ginregen, the gods, ancestors, and Vatir, especially before taking on what can be heady and heavy practices like spirit work like Seidr and Spa. Engage in regular cleansing, grounding, centering, shielding, and warding work to keep spiritually clean, healthy, and clear inside and out. I highly recommend developing or working with a few methods for each so that you can keep your interest in the daily work long term and so you can address different situations as they come up. Have folks in your community that you trust to give you solid feedback if you choose to pursue Seidr and Spa. If you do, I deeply advise you begin a good relationship with Freya and past Seidr workers, such as the Vulva of the Voluspa and Thorbjorg of Eriksager. Developing cultists with them is not a bad idea, and these are very much spiritual ancestors of Vuller and Seidh Mother and Seidh Kona and Spa Kona and Spa Mother and so on. It may also be a really good idea to develop a relationship with Othin as a Seidh Mother, particularly if you have a relationship with him in other areas. I do, and I also relate to him as a Seidh Mother. As with many subjects in heathenry, Spa, just like Seidr, is a work in progress, carried forward by each and every person that engages in it in the communities they're part of. While we can point to a scant few written sources and what archaeology has to tell us, we are primarily responsible for the source of how heathenry develops Seidr and Spa from here. Developing our communities through right relationship with the gods, ancestors, and Vatir, we can bring powerful lessons and grounding to the practice of Spa in our generation and those to come. All right, that's all for now. I hope to see you in the next video.